Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by John, that's Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Neil, Eli, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Welcome, welcome, good to have you all. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
Only in John's kitchen.
Well, you can disprove that the elevation angle taken from a flat plane, when reverse engineered into a triangle with a height established, can't possibly work flat, even though that's where you got the angle measurements from in the first instance. See the pre-show for an extended version of this discussion that I've just summarised in about 15 seconds. I'm quite impressed with myself. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth or Earth curvature?
Black Swan.
Flat down.
No, I think.
Hold on.
I say it's loud. Black Swan.
Indeedy, Black Swan. The horizon's not Earth curve. We've only got one horizon. Go on, 10th. You're desperate. Go.
Yeah. I'll go. Well, they used to say the horizon is Earth curve. Then they say, we never said the horizon was Earth curve. Then they say, well, the radius is 3959. Okay, let's do some math and see where it would have to be, meaning no further than at the different elevation heights. And, well, it's there, but you can't see it. Well, okay, well, if you've never seen it, how do you know it's there? I mean, do you know how ridiculous this is? John's kitchen makes more sense than this.
Indeed. Quick shout out to Flat Dan, sorry, Eli. He says, just wanted to say thank you for all the work you do. Your shows are always a highlight of my days. Well, thank you very much indeed, Flat Dan. Smash the super chat to support this channel. Really appreciate it. Go ahead, Eli. My bad.
Yeah, if something is geometrically in the way, it doesn't just disappear. The light from that obstruction has to reach your eye. It can't not be there. Well, it can not be there if they're lying about it. And obviously there is no...
A hill that gets in the way doesn't suddenly not get in the way.
Correct.
Right. Well, they say the hill that was formerly in the way of things blocking the bottom is now projected up 10 miles beyond the thing it was formerly blocking. It makes absolutely no sense. It can't possibly be the case. And if it is the case, the horizon that you're looking at that's been projected up beyond the thing it was formerly obscuring with its geometric physicality isn't geometric at that point. And their claim of a sphere Earth edge horizon physically blocking things comes with the geometry to claim it. That would be an Earth curve edge horizon that they claim blocks boats and buildings, which doesn't. As I say, if claimed to be projected up beyond the thing it's supposed to be blocking, it's not geometric, it's not Earth curve. We've only got one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator was, before the Black Swan, physical and geometric, claimed to be blocking things. Now, it clearly isn't. Our own opponents tell us how non-geometric it is.
Well, if the horizon was curvature, refracted or not, you couldn't take elevation angles from the surface.
That's correct. So further to their response to the black swan argument, which is to say that all lines to the horizon are in fact bent at a radius value, they call terrestrial, otherwise known as refraction, baited and switched to a 7/6R value, as done by Mick West on a nauseous basis, constantly does it, bait and switch people with actual refraction or refraction in sugar water, false equivalence, and then slips in 7/6 of the radius value in substitution once your back's turned, looking at some commotion he might have caused. But ultimately speaking, they need R for their refraction when they claim that, which is a paradox because they get their refraction that they're claiming the horizon's been moved with from a geometric measurement because it's based on R. Terrestrial refraction, or sphere refraction, or atmospheric refraction, or standard refraction is based on a radius value, derived at the horizon, which you can no longer measure if you're refracting it, paradoxically speaking. So it's a complete shit show. Meanwhile, when they claim it, which they do and have for 2 years, oh, there's no straight lines to anything. Well, then you're never going to get an elevation angle measurement, then are you? Because that's a straight line. Angles are straight lines. If all lines to the horizon, which is the thing you're using when you grab a sextant, are bent, then it's useful for nothing if you're on a sphere. Further to that, you can't get an elevation angle from the curved surface. It needs to be a straight, flat baseline. Happy days being a flat earther's quite good at the time. This time, 2022, if anyone's watching this after the fact. Happy days. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You and your reference frames are ruined.
Simon Dan, you will never live that tweet down that you proactively sent me for absolutely no reason. You and your reference frames are ruined. Given that the globe Earth claims 2 reference frames to demonstrate a Coriolis drift, telling me that they're ruined isn't really a good attack method. Hey, Simon Dan, especially as we're still mentioning about 3 years later.
Yeah, it's his peak accomplishment.
Telling me that the
He's
reference
never going to
frames...
surpass that.
His peak accomplishment is telling a flat earther that the reference frames used by globe Earth claims of Coriolis are ruined. Yeah, what an achievement.
You know, Coriolis is going to be one of those arguments whenever I get to how my kitchen is spinning. That's just going to be fun.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, you
but
can
because of how-
engineer all sorts of non-reference frames that are single reference frames that are claimed to give you an effect with 2 reference frames when you put that claim of single reference frame on the shelf, because that's what you need, because it isn't actually spinning and no effect's going to be observed. But when you're detailing it with a contraption that you might put in your kitchen, for instance, a pendulum, you're going to be showing how that kitchen's spinning with 2 reference frames, non-demonstratable in any other circumstances but the tool that you've got. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun, John, I agree. Oh, I'm looking forward to the flat, non-spinning kitchen being shown to be spinning with a pendulum. Oh, fucking hey. Oh, I can't wait. Life's good.
But the thing is about if you're going to try that, you could actually take a merry-go-round and then simulate it to be a kitchen and spin it really slowly and then try a pendulum on that to see if there actually would be a deviation.
Oh, there's going to be more than that, Arwin. We're going to have conservation of angular momentum going on. There's going to be all sorts of bullshit. It's going to be great.
Looking forward to it.
That non-spinning spinning
because
kitchen's going to be spinning in a reference frame that you aren't experiencing and not observing, but it's going to demonstrate it with a tool that you can experience and observe. I assure you, Arwin. It's going to be cut and dry, non-confusing, clear as mud.
And when you don't observe it, it's because that it's spinning at the same rate of that kitchen.
If we don't observe it, you and your reference frames you're claiming to prove the kitchen is spinning are ruined, John. Should it be shown to not give the effect that you're claiming it will have in your spinning kitchen, then you and your reference frames are ruined.
Yeah, the kitchen and the air in the kitchen is spinning all together. So when you look at the fan on the ceiling, it appears the fan to be moving, but it's not.
Yeah, I think
Well, I mean, we're getting a little bit of...
you've only got a rudimentary understanding. You just don't understand sphere kitchen. But we'll get there. We'll explain it to you. Don't fear. Go ahead, John.
We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. First, I have to establish the law of interplanetary motion within my kitchen.
Yeah, I did say Kepler is the next step, really. What that's going to be referencing is besides the point at this stage. We just know what needs to be done based on what the globe earthers do.
Oh, yeah, they got a template.
Yeah, it's a nice template for making kitchens spherical and spinning. Isn't it quaint? Isn't it beautiful? I love it. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
There's no
Well,
You need a
distance to
flashlight.
anything.
In John's kitchen, where is it? It's infinite, right, John?
Well,
he-
we can't know. Hold on, we can't know the distance to the ceiling fan until we can establish that there's another object the same as our kitchen within the outer lying reaches of this wall / ceiling to establish an interplanetary motion, and then we can derive its distance.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge.
Yeah,
when we,
but how
when
many
we come to it.
Darwinian units?
No, we don't need Darwinian units.
3.
Look, let's not try and imprint things that aren't necessary. Let's just follow the template. There's protocols to be followed here, lads. Let's not just insert any old bullshit where it isn't necessarily needed. There's plenty of cement, heliocentric bullshit to smear across any cracks that develop after the structure's built. But first, you've got to build the structure. And that's what we're doing. So just calm down. Everyone needs to relax. There's no rush.
I got a suggestion.
But we need to fill the void, Nathan. If we
I got
don't
it.
know a distance anymore, then we need to make up our own distance, even if there's only apparent distances. It's
I
a
got
human
it.
need.
You're all very excited for John's new religion.
No, I got it. John, you can use 10th man's kitchen for your Venus.
That's not in his planetary system. So no, we're all being a bit silly, aren't we? Let's be
No,
honest.
that makes perfect sense because
Don't mock
10th
the
man never
farce.
actually cooks there. Only women.
You're making
cook
a
in
mockery of
10th
this
man's
farce, okay? And I don't like it.
No, it works. It's proper to call it the 10th man's kitchen Venus because only women cook in it.
Look, you can only apply certain nonsense to this, Arwin, and John and I are going to fight for this nonsense to be exactly parallel with the globe. And I say that with all sincerity, even though it's a parody. Hopefully he'll do his deadpan example and just lay it out in black and white terms without any sarcasm, without any irony, without any taking the mickey out of globe believers.
Nice pun, Nathan. Deadpan example. Nice
You
pun.
mean, yeah, very good, boom boom. Deadpan in the kitchen sphere world is, yeah.
I've not made.
So nobody got my joke. Thanks.
Neil's so loud.
I've not made fun of the Globers. I've made fun of their argument. Now, if they want to ascribe themselves to that argument, that's them choosing to, I don't know, become one with a joke. I don't know.
Accept the flat earth that was required to make your kitchen spherical, and then realise the ironic truth, and in some cases devastating truth, that's how their sphere earth paradigm's been developed in the same way. I mean, there's going to be a lot of contemplation amongst anti-flat earthers in this regard, but this is the only people that this will necessarily appeal to, because they're the only people that have taken it to this level. Normies won't get this. This isn't going to convert anybody on the normie globe side, just so you know.
John, I have a question about your kitchen, right? Do you have central heating?
Yeah.
Right. Well, then you can speculate that the molten core of your kitchen is actually hot water.
Beautiful segue. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical kitchen?
Well, obviously, since it's spherical, and Arwen is pointing to the hot air coming out from the vents, it would be a necessity that there would be a liquid like water down there, since oxygen's being produced. I think Arwen's onto it.
I think there's potential for a backstory for a fictional molten iron core that you can never achieve or ascertain in any physical reality, because that's obviously a lot more akin to the sphere Earth claim. And then start making up stories about the other planetary motions of other derived sphere kitchen planets or garage planets or condo planets that might have perhaps interacted with your sphere core at some point. Maybe bashed into it a glancing blow many years ago. Obviously, this motion is so slow. We're talking about billions of years in your depictions. So obviously, you're not going to see any of these condo planets hitting you now.
I have a better solution, Nathan.
So slowly.
I have a better solution.
You're forgetting the P waves and S waves caused by the cabinets in the kitchen.
That's a measurement after the fact. Again, you're getting ahead of yourself. Arwin, go ahead.
Yeah, John. So I take it that like the company that actually installed your central heating is called Athea, right?
Good one.
We can say it is, just for
There you go.
the plot line.
Oh, just for clarity, so no one thinks like we're lying. This is all true. Why? Well, because we made it up ourselves. But that, in this instance, isn't strictly true. We are making it up ourselves with use of a template, the heliocentric sphere Earth template, and we're directly applying that to a world that we are making up ourselves. So I don't want anyone to feel like when we say, oh, well, was the heating company Theia being the planet that's smashed into the fledgling Earth, depositing a molten iron core to get around the fact that in their timeline we should have already cooled down, but we haven't. We've got an oversized core, obviously a planet smashed into us in this timeline. Well, that would be Theia. The heating company that came to John's house, by comparison, is ironically being named that. See, that works with the parallel timeline and justification and storytelling that the Globe Earth offers, Arwin. That will get you commendation, as opposed to whoever it was in Discord earlier with their nonsense. Slap, slap, slap.
Can I ask John a question about the sketch?
That's more like it, George. A question. Yes, excellent. I'm being really rude. I'm sorry, George. Go ahead.
Does the air in your kitchen disperses to the vacuum in the corridor?
No, my kitchen has a roof.
No, that's not right. It does, given certain rhetorics being set on the shelf in this description, give off a certain amount of gas to the outside planetary systems that are out there, right? Those do happen. You know, there's a certain amount, in spite of the fact that you'd need containment for all of it in the first place, and this would be a second law of thermodynamics violation, a certain amount is given off, right? That is part of the story. Correct, John? Just say yeah.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say is we haven't actually moved into fourth dimensional space-time mechanics to explain anything yet. So we're still working with the idea of ether that is my roof and walls.
Right, indeed.
No,
I mean,
but it would be gravity.
well, that's
Your
what he's
roof
saying. He's
is
saying, although
gravity.
he's not established the exact correlation and parallel with his gravity, which will also be pseudo-Ramonian for space-time bending in his kitchen, to justify this gas that's being asked about. We haven't got quite there yet, but he's already hinted at the fact that it's going to parallel it regardless. Their description of whatever they get around this effect, which doesn't exist at all in physical reality, will be explained in the mathematics of pseudo-4 space. We just haven't got there yet. But John's already hinted at that by saying that. So no evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core in all seriousness at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
Well, there's volcanoes, right?
That proves nothing. That doesn't prove anything with molten iron cores regard. That's just not... That's,
Right.
No, that's tectonic activity. In their bullshit. I'm not saying it's tectonic activity. It might be.
Well,
Yeah,
is there
but
any other
people
way for them
certainly think
to
it's related.
explain the magnetic effects?
Sorry, do I need them to explain it any way other than the rhetoric that they offer? What do you mean?
Of course not.
They explain it that way. They say it's a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of their presupposed spherical Earth that was derived from flat Earth plane elevation angle measurements. So that's what they say. And they say, because in the timeline of mathematics it should have cooled down, obviously a planet called Theia smashed in a glancing blow, and the debris formed our moon, and the molten iron core was left in Earth. And it's
Is
true
this
because...
molten iron core also responsible for the magnetic field?
Yeah, that's why
that
we're
we
discussing
see?
it. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
just twigging that that's why we talk about it. Self-perpetuating. That's why we drop that bit into the housekeeping. It's beyond the Curie point. It wouldn't be giving you a magnetic field.
So
Yeah.
what was the orbital mechanical system of Theia before it crashed into Earth?
It was just on
Did
an
they
orbital
actually
path.
model it out, how it led up to it?
Yes, they have. It was on an orbital path that
Really?
was inevitably going to collide, but before it collided, it obviously didn't. But yes, it had an orbital path and everything.
Isn't that the
But
so-called center of mass?
Wouldn't that rearrange all the gravity forces balance, which is still Newtonian mechanics of the solar system? So...
It's happened a very long time ago in a galaxy that does not exist.
Oh. So it wasn't like an outside planetoid crashing in, right?
No,
It was originally formed with our solar system, and
That's
then
correct.
it was in unbalance, and then it crashed into
That's correct.
Earth.
So it was exactly. It's like any other claim to be heliocentric, orbiting the sun planets, moving around the sun like anything else. It's been developed. It just happened to be on a collision course over time with the fledgling Earth, according to the heliocentric made it of themselves story of Theia and our molten iron core, giving us the magnetic fields. Because it self-perpetuates, because it's beyond the Curie point, even in their own story, it doesn't make sense and wouldn't work.
Since it was all hot and molten, even as it formed, was it closer to the sun like Mercury, and then it kind of was slung outward? Because if it was moving inward, it couldn't have, it would have cooled off a long time ago, probably.
I'm going to say I don't
Right.
know, because to my recollection, and I've read this story in several different places, they don't go on to describe the thereafter of the maintenance of the orbit. They just obviously infer that where we end up is where we are now. So they're not part of the story isn't, oh, and it pushed us into the Goldilocks zone or anything like that I've seen. So if somebody wants to say, hey, here you go, in this particular description of the made it of themselves because they needed to in a heliocentric world that we don't experience story of Theia, they actually say that it pushed us into the Goldilocks zone. So it's very fortunate they got this collision, because otherwise we'd be too cold or too hot or whatever they say we would be if it hadn't hit us. But from my recollection, I don't recall that being a part of the story. But it obviously would be in there moving around the sun, not that we are. Story of sphere Earth, not that we are, because it was derived from flat plane elevation angle measurements. Story about Theia hitting the sphere Earth that it isn't. So there you go.
Right. Because I could imagine that maybe Theia was like the third planet, much closer to Venus, and Earth was a little farther away, closer to Mars, perhaps, and that they eventually then just crashed into one another and merged.
Amazing how easily you slip into heliocentric reified mechanics with us at not us at the centre, I was about to say, with the sun at the centre and us moving around it with distances to these lights in the sky we call planets, because they have a slightly stranger motion than all the other lights. But there we go. It's nice how you can snap into that mode so quickly. Over 100 people watching, so you can smash the share button. That'd be absolutely fantastic. The only reason there's 100 people watching is because people in the audience do share the show. Obviously, a lot of them being my Patreons and members, but really appreciate it if you've already smashed the share button. If you haven't, please do. It's really easy. Hit the share button, share the show to Twitter, just say something benign, live now.
I share to 3 different areas, so I'm good.
On
What? Hold on.
I
What,
share
Neil?
your show on 3 different platforms.
Oh, I missed the first bit. You share it.
All the time.
I'm very grateful, Neil. Shout out to Neil specifically for sharing the show. Neil is ace.
I agree. We need to push this argument forward. Enough of the nonsense. Let's get this thing going.
That's right. Shout out to that flat fellow for smashing the super sticker. Send me a pair of sunglass wearing emojis. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, that flat fellow. Really appreciate the support. Any scientific evidence of gravity, as we did cover it a little bit a while ago about the sphere kitchen?
What's that?
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity! Shout out to Travis. A plain truth. Subscribe today. Often gets brought up in the BLMSB 69 Black Swan argument because he's went to a similar location and caught similar evidence, makes similar arguments. Talks a lot of nonsense
Like
about
I
ether
always
bands as well.
say,
But...
they don't.
Go on, sorry.
Like I always say, they don't even have a definition for gravity.
Don't you see the gravity of that?
They don't have a phenomenon. There's nothing actually happening when they describe something occurring in a pseudo-Riemannian force-based geometry that doesn't exist in physical reality and only exists in the abstract maths. Further to that,
Yeah.
the out-of-date rhetoric of 107-year-old Newtonian gravity, again, doesn't manifest in physical reality. Mass does not attract mass. Gas disproves that. Gas expands in all directions. If it encounters another gas particle of any description, it'll just bounce off it. Elastic collisions. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
Yeah, they don't seem to really care that much.
I don't know. We lose sight of the fact that the globe does very much claim that the whole body of science is behind them in their assertion that we're standing on a spherical surface, and it's all pseudoscience. Our opponents here in this arena, which this chessboard's definitely been set up in a way that we are now debating outside of the rhetoric of Sphere Earth, hence people like Simon Dan saying you and your reference frames are ruined, because he's attacking flat earthers as an anti-flat earther and not realising that the very claim to be refutation of what we state, which is we don't see Coriolis effect as claimed, ruins the original claim that we do see Coriolis when he says the reference frames used to describe the effect on a globe are ruined. Well, that's a tiny corner of the internet hearing that, because he's not putting that crap out on his show, is he? 220,000 viewers, or plus, maybe up to 1 million. I don't know. I haven't watched Simon Dan's numbers recently. I'm sure he's doing fantastically as an anti-flat earther with the same titles and tags as we have, because he's not deemed fringe, because he's telling everyone we're wrong. But ultimately speaking, he's not telling his audience that the reference frames used to claim that the globe is spinning are ruined. He's telling me that via Twitter.
He would go against Neil deGrasse Tyson if he said it to anyone else.
Right. My point being that we're arguing about nonsense that isn't the globe claim, and we lose sight of that when we start asking for any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. The reason QE was so insistent on that being a housekeeping question is because that is very much the Western world way of things with regards to the sphere Earth. Claim that the science proves it. When Neil deGrasse Tyson infers that science is right whether you like it or not, he's talking as a heliocentric priest and inferring that he's got science for that, and he hasn't. That may be well true in terms of establishment of cause and effect by way of systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis, but that isn't what he's got. But he implies it with a true statement that science is correct whether you like it or not. That would be to say that once you've established the cause and effect with an experiment based on a valid hypothesis, based on a valid phenomenon that you've observed in nature, assumed the cause, varied it, and proved that you can cause it, that's science, and does prove things, and is right whether you like it or not. He just doesn't have any. He's just hijacked it and infers that his pseudoscience, which hasn't had that method applied, is actually proving his sphere Earth claims. It's done by implication, but that is very much the way of the Western world scientific viewpoint when they claim the Earth's a sphere. They don't have any science, is the point. They have pseudoscience. They just say science.
Right. That's what that guy Zetman that came in so upset with you and everything else, that he doesn't understand that he's following pseudoscientists.
There's a third part, Nathan, that's important. It's not just a valid hypothesis and a valid naturally observed phenomenon. It's a valid testing of that and adherence to the scientific method. That's where a lot of that's like the real point where pseudoscience gets the foot in the door. They don't do a correct. They started not doing correct tests, correct experiments. So that's when, if you can mess around with the experiment, then you can make anything science, if you know what I mean.
Right, they've called their gadgets and gizmos science, called them experiments when they're not.
That's a beautiful point. I was talking to flat earthers as well, who think that the scientific method is a materialist's rigid way of doing things, but that's only because they don't want to have a phenomena to observe, and so ultimately they want to beg the question. That's the only reason anyone would be against the method.
Yeah, they can't beg the question with the elevation angle argument. We'll get back to that in a second after I shout out Retro Bill for smashing the super chat. It says, Nathan, what is the origin of John's Kitchen? Sorry, but I missed the show when it was introduced. No worries. I've posted a link in the video, and it was discussed at length, along with playing the video in the pre-show today, which gives me a great opportunity, Retro Bill, to plug becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member today, because you get to see that as soon as the after show later on this afternoon is finished recording. I immediately upload it for members only, so that extensive discussion in today's pre-show is available to members as soon as it's been recorded. So become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and you can watch that as soon as it's published. If you're not, subscribe to my second channel, which is Nathan Oakley channel, where the Uncut and After show we are talking about, that comes out for members only immediately, comes out 2 or 3 days later on the second channel, which is growing nicely. I hadn't been watching it yet. It's got over 7,000 subscribers, the second channel. It's like my backup channel. And it's doing really nicely. Maybe because I occasionally, like now, do plug it and point out that you don't have to be a member to get these shows. You just get them a bit later if you're a second channel member, and that's called Nathan Oakley. Links below. Let's move on.
I can actually answer his question.
Go ahead.
So I did some research, and it turns out that John's Kitchen actually didn't originate with John. It turns out that some previous owners actually measured the radius as well. One, Mr. Albert Rooney, I think he used an off angle off a chair. And then another owner in the deed records turned out to be Erica Tostanes, and she used shadows also. So turns out this is a well-established fact in antiquity that hits the sphere.
Indeed.
And if you doubt this, you can go look up the records, but not for 2 weeks, because I'm not going to enter it in until 2 weeks from now. But don't worry, it'll be 50 years from before.
We can sort that with the memory hole. But I think that's excellent because, yes, indeed, Erica's mathematical derivations are going to be documented somewhere. I'm sure we can scrape through and find them and imply that they've come from somebody who we will make up, named Erica Tostanes. And good old Al, he also derived a method, like you say, with a chair, and he derived the height of the chair with a flat plane elevation angle measurement and some trick to then derive a spherical radius, which will absolutely match up to the 85 inches. I'm pretty sure of that. In fact, I'm certain, because it can't not be spherical. John's shown that. It's a lot of fun being a flatty at the moment. Would everyone agree?
Definitely.
Dude, I'm all into this new John's Kitchen, John Kitchen Earther.
This is
Well, they're
go ahead.
yeah, they're all flatties. Everything has to be measured from flat first, so it's not like being flatty. No, everyone's a flatty.
Did you see the latest from Fight the Flat Earth?
Somebody posted a screenshot. No, it wasn't a screenshot. It was Flatsoid. So Flatsoid published a video that was like words to the effect of "fight the flat Earths off his head," and then he went through in a comment that he'd made and laid out as he was typing. He cut it down to 60 seconds. I love videos like that, where he just one by one demolishes every single thing that the guy said, pretty much as he's saying it. And like I say, Flatsoid managed to do that in a 60-second video or less, which gives you an idea. But go ahead, I'm sorry to steal your thunder by plugging Flatsoid, but shout out to you, Flatsoid. I did see your FTFE video. But go ahead, Brian.
No, Flatsoid is ace. Flatsoid is he really annoys them because he points out just logical, obvious things like that don't make any sense with their claims. No, Flatsoid is brilliant. No, I was just, I don't know what I didn't see Flatsoid's video. I only saw what Mitchell posted earlier, which was the Fight the Flat Earth and Simon Dan are willing to delete their channels and go away or whatever, I don't know. If someone can show them a citation that supports that the internals of a circle 2D of equal altitude is a flat plane. Now, there's a couple of problems.
Sorry, just stop 1 second, Brian. Let me just summarise what they're asking. I'm rubbing my eyes in frustration in case you can't hear that. So they're asking about a circle, correct?
Yes.
And that circle is described as a circle of
equal altitude.
Equal altitude.
So a two-dimensional shape that is very specifically detailed in its description of as being equal altitude. They're asking how that can be flat. Is that correct?
Yes.
Sorry, if I had a button with clown music, I've got a voice. Dun 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 little dun 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 little dun 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 dun.
And you're not wrong for doing that.
That's level.
No,
I really
because
like the
Equal
Sinatra
level.
song. I like the Sinatra song. I did that on my show today.
No, it's a clown show. I think Nathan's clown music fits perfect.
Ah, but the Sinatra song is better though. It's so soft. I don't
you're talking
know
about
the one
Sending
I'm
the
talking
Clowns.
about,
No,
right?
I know Sending the Clowns. That's not Sinatra's
Yeah.
song. He just
Oh,
sang
sorry.
it. But it
Is that
doesn't matter because
Sinatra?
that's not as good as.
As-
No, he didn't write that. He didn't write that.
Oh,
Right. He sang it, but he didn't write
He
it.
didn't write a lot of stuff.
Okay, this is a fascinating
So,
Frank Sinatra
what has
discussion.
this got to do with Fight the
Brian,
Flat Earth?
go ahead, Brian.
Exactly.
Brian, do you want to summarise your point about
Yeah.
Fight the Flat Earth?
Yeah, because the first point that people will go to is circle. It's a 2D. Forgetting what there's two problems. There's three problems. That's actually the third problem. First problem is he's completely whitewashing the whole process of attaining this circle of equal altitude. So he's avoiding the angle with the dip and height of y corrections, and the fact that the baseline of the right angle triangle is going to be the radius, straight line radius of the circle of equal altitude. It becomes a diameter, blah, blah, blah. And then he's also, on top of that, the next thing that they're doing, that I'm not forgetting about now, is it's gone in my head. I got distracted.
It's not a problem. It gives me an opportunity because while I'm doing this, typically it jogs people's memory. So shout out to Flat Earth Sage. He says, thanks for all your hard work. You do really appreciate the show. I'm pretty sure that's directed towards everyone on the panel. So thank you very much indeed for the support. Obviously, that's coming my way. Screw all of you on the panel. None of you are getting any of that $5. That's all mine. But the sentiment, you can all have that. I'll separate that up evenly. Thank you, Flat Earth Sage. I really do appreciate the support in all seriousness. And there's 130 people watching, so someone's definitely smashed the share button. Thank you very much if you shared the show. If you haven't, please smash the share button. That's the only reason there's a lot of people watching. This is fringe content. So if it wasn't for the people sharing, there wouldn't be anyone here at all.
I remember.
I'm sure John
Hold on,
can
Brian's got his point
explain
back.
circles of equal altitude working on his spherical kitchen.
God.
Sorry, George. Go ahead, Brian. Hopefully you've remembered.
Okay, Nathan. Yeah, it'll be quick enough. Yeah, they're looking for a citation that the internals of a two-dimensional object, which is a circle, will be flat. Like a citation. Who's going to write that citation? You know what I mean? You can show. Like, what citation do they want? Do they want someone from celestial navigation? Someone from navigation? Sorry, like a mariner or something, stating that the internals of the circle of equal altitude is flat? Because we can show them where they say this, but do they want an actual citation from someone who makes a point of writing a citation? Do mariners write citations?
Well, yeah. If a citation's anything that's written down that's in reference to the point you're making. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we could show them something from one of the official documentations. That should be enough, shouldn't it?
In that
I was going to say,
masturbate.
beautiful segue. 10th, got your LOP on screen.
Yeah, it's right here. To ensure that the object is at its lowest possible point, the sextant is rotated along the axis of the telescope, and the time of measurement and altitude are noted by measuring the angle theta of the known star from the horizon and using a book containing known reference values for the star in question at the time of measurement. It is possible to determine the distance r along the surface of the Earth to the point to which the star is exactly overhead. Here we go. From this, a navigator knows he is on a specific circle along the plane of the surface of the Earth. I just quoted it. Take down your channels.
They're Welch anyway.
Yeah, they're liars.
Send that to me,
They're not going to
Kent,
do anything.
please.
All this has
They're
done
Welsh.
is
How
worked
do you know they're
beautifully in respect that it's got us talking about them, which helps their channel growth. It helps them. Now, it doesn't matter that they're lying through their back teeth and they're never going to delete anything. It doesn't matter that you've just proved it, 10th. They're liars.
Oh, I know that.
Do you think that gravy train that's befallen Dan, for whatever reason the YouTube gods have smiled on him, do you think he's going to kiss goodbye to that? because you've shown this and proven that he's completely
No,
idiotic.
no.
I did that already with the clown music. Shall I go and tell him? No, because me now engaging in him, saying, you should be taking your child. Yeah, that'll just help him. Meanwhile, we've proven the point. I know you're trying to interrupt to say no, but I still want to show it. Yeah, I'm never suggesting that you don't.
No, I'm not interrupting for that. I'm saying I know exactly, and I have your same sentiments, but I'm doing it for the audience.
Exactly.
What they do is they make out these claims like, well, if you can show me this, and then we do, and then they go make another one, never retract the falsehood from the first one that we proved. So yeah, they're known liars. That's obvious.
That's
Right.
why I said under the thing today, he will welch on his bet. Don't even listen to them anymore.
Of course,
I never do.
They don't listen. They will ignore the bits that they can't overcome. I mean, a case in point would be Thunderfoot, who made an absolutely idiotic assertion that gas goes down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. Now you can show with natural law that he's wrong. When it comes to gas, he's completely idiotic. Have we had any retractions? No. He made a follow-up video that completely ignored it. Why? Well, because they're not going to address the things that they can't get around. Of course not. They'll call us idiots and ad hominem. That's precisely what Simon Dan will get if we engage him. Now, with me, I'm fairly reactive because I'm lazy. So I'm never going to proactively contact Simon Dan or get involved with anything he does. I'm not interested. It doesn't interest me. But when someone proactively tweets me, not that I even check my Twitter, it just happened to be there when I was sharing something on Twitter. I was like, what's this in the background? Simon Dan? Hello. You and your reference frames are ruined. What's this? A picture of a man not drifting? Debunking the very notion that we've got a drift on your side of the argument with your globe Earth claim and your reference frames with your drift that the globe Earth's supposed to have. You're telling me how that's ruined? Wow, this is golden. Thank you for contacting me proactively, Dan, with your tweet. But that's the idiot level. They want us to engage with them. I can't remember who said this recently to credit them. They need us. I think it was Adam.
Yes, they need us.
Anti-flat earthers, we're against the entire Western worldview of a globe. They're against flat Earth, and often against the globe without realising it. This is a case in point. They've got Simon Dan telling me, a flat earther, that I don't have any, reference frames, that would be globe Earth reference frames, are, quote, ruined. Talk about smashing your face with a hammer.
Sometimes I wonder if they're really on our side.
Maybe they're here to ease the nation into it with their idiocy in this regard. You know, giving stupid rebuttals like that show that the globe Earth claim in the first instance fails by way of his rebuttal to me, when I don't have any reference frames to claim and the globe Earth absolutely needs them to say we've got drift that we point out we don't see. When Simon Dan sees I'm pointing out we don't see drift, he takes that to think in some way I'm claiming we should. No, we shouldn't. You just claim we should on the globe. When I point out we haven't got any, you tell me why we haven't got any and claim that my claim of reference frames is ruined because you're a stupid idiot who doesn't understand what Coriolis is. That's blatantly obvious. You wouldn't do that if you actually understood what the argument was. Like most idiots, they don't understand what Coriolis is. Took me long enough to perfect the argument, and I'm in a select few that do understand it. Most of them are sat around me right now.
What a dumbass.
Are you done with housekeeping? I got a few slides to share.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Weight.
Weight is down. Gas isn't going down. It goes in all directions. Next.
Oh, they're claiming a dielectric acceleration, that incoherent dielectric acceleration causes gas to come back down.
Gas doesn't go down. Same
again.
response. Gas doesn't go down. Same response to Thunderfoot. Gas isn't the same as a solid bonded bouncy ball. Gas isn't going down. Gas doesn't go down. Go boom boom. It's not following a single vector. It's not weight. It's not capable of being weighed. Gas expands in all directions. It will fill the availability of volume it has to fill. That is gas behaviour. It's not going down. If you release a gas into a vacuum, it won't form a puddle at the bottom. It will fill evenly throughout whatever containment that vacuum provides. No longer a vacuum because it's got gas in it. And that gas will just expand in all directions. Now, if you've ever seen I think it's called explosive decompression, where you've got a vacuum chamber and you essentially open the valve. What happens is a massive, vast inrush of gas, and then it equalizes with the pressure around it. Why? Because it's distributed itself evenly throughout the container, as gas does. It doesn't suddenly pool at the bottom. No, it's not liquid and it's not solid. It expands in all directions. That's gas behavior. Ergo, if the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill that space. The same exact explosive decompression, or in this case, gas equalizing into the containment of a vacuum, former containment once you open a valve, that would be what our gas would do with the sky vacuum. Dissipate into it rapidly. Furthermore, we wouldn't ever have a scenario where that could happen because we'd never develop gas pressure in the first place. A gas would come out of the ground, a gas particle, and just fly off in whatever direction it flies and continue to do so. It's not going to get to a Kármán line and go, you know what? I quite liked it back down there. I'm going to violate natural law and just turn around. No, gas just carries on in whatever direction it's got until it hits something. Might be another gas particle if you've got a high concentration of gas. Moreover, if you're the first gas particle ever leaving the ground and you want to develop gas pressure over a planet that's spherical, you're going to need to hit something and come back again. Not have a vast area of vacuum to fill, because you'll just dissipate into it. That's what gas does. Hence, the sky vacuum, that would be outer space, a space for gas to fill, is fake. There is no space with rockets. All of their claims of heliocentric stars in space is lies. We do have stars, that's obvious. You can look at them through a telescope. We certainly don't have orbital motion and a sky vacuum with them moving around the sun. Preposterous nonsense. Lights in the sky are not occupying a sky vacuum. We'd all be dead.
As far as the gas particles, they're always telling me that they don't have enough energy to escape the Earth.
Unless they reach absolute zero, that's totally absurd. Because the energy level is never going to reach zero. They're always going to have motion. They might change phase, but they're always going to behave as gas if they're gas. That is to say, they're going to move in whatever direction they are moving until they collide with something.
Yeah, is colliding with something or another particle is the only way for it to change direction. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So if it comes out of the ground,
slow down.
No, well, it might slow down,
and then turn around.
It might slow down, but that makes no difference in terms of what it's actually doing and the vector it takes. Once it's acquired a vector, left the ground, it's released from a gas pocket. As individual particles, because they are unbonded, not attached to the ground or each other, they fly off in multiple directions, all vectors. Now, if there's nothing impeding them, this is the start of life in a heliocentric world. That is to say, there's nothing in the way. They just come out of the ground and, I was about to swear, dissipate into space. Well, that's all that would ever happen. You'd never achieve gas pressure. And what do you know? We've got gas pressure. That means that we must have containment. It's the necessary antecedent for gas pressure. Something to press on.
So John's kitchen doesn't have it all.
John's kitchen does have containment. Jorge saying you've got a problem, John. Go ahead, Jorge. Have it out with him if you feel necessary. He's not even here.
Well, I'm just saying the dispersion of the gases from the kitchen to the corridor will depend how wide open the door is.
Yeah. That's okay, isn't it?
I'm just saying he needs to take these things into a model.
Not if the hallway's a vacuum, then it'll just tear the door open as it pulls all the gases out.
Well, the hallway's not a vacuum. It's got pressure. It's just gradiated up to a greater vacuum.
I don't think much hinges on this question.
Boom, boom. Just for YouTubers moaning that I don't have the chat up all the time. Just for this show only. I'll leave the chat up during the rest of this live show. Just for you. Any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
It's in the math, as John proved.
Well, if they can't get it from the horizon, as we've demonstrated, then What are the other ways for them to potentially get it?
They can derive
There
it from
aren't
the
any.
well, the elevation angles to Polaris. That's what I don't know. But Brian, did you want to go through this as you've been asked, or we've been asked specifically?
Yeah. What were we asked? What was the
Do you want to ask
exact
your question again? Who was that?
Yeah.
Ram.
How else can they acquire the R value without you having to use the horizon, as we've demonstrated is, bunk?
My bad, I missed the first bit. So you can't really answer that because the elevation angle to Polaris still includes the horizon being used. It doesn't necessarily have to, but did you want to answer that, Brian?
Well, yeah. Elevation angles to Polaris gave them their dual radii, the polar and equatorial radius. They have to be that due to the elevation angles to Polaris, which have to have happened and can only happen over a flat plane. You can't, because the elevation angles to Polaris is not just some random little angle. It has a baseline that gives a distance to the GP of Polaris. So all elevation angles to Polaris, as you move away from Polaris, that baseline of that right angle triangle will be the distance from the observer to the GP of Polaris. So when they got to 5,400 nautical miles away and Polaris was at 0, they knew they were 5,000, well, whatever. They didn't use nautical miles then. They would have used maybe stadia or something. But they knew their distance from Polaris due to the baseline of that right angle triangle. All elevation angles to Polaris require a flat plane. And what they did is they took these measurements and they decided to put them in the center of a circle and then use angles out to a pre-assumed curved surface from that center to fit the 16 nautical miles per degree type measurements. But that was all done and can only work and does only work on a flat plane. So they had the globe was back engineered off of a flat Earth. There is no other way for them to ever come up with a dual radii and the exact radius they have, for the exact dual radii they have. There is no globe. The globe is the flat Earth model.
May I add to that, Brian?
If you want to.
Yeah, so the 0 is the equator because of what just Brian said, because Polaris could no longer be seen. And so that's why altitude equals latitude for them on the flat plane. All those latitude lines, that's exactly what Brian's explaining, how you get those from a flat plane.
Exactly.
I think that's it for housekeeping. Did you say that you wanted to...
Yes. Let's round off the show with some slides. The one with the sun and zenith and elevation or altitude. You see that? Right after the sailor on the boat.
Just before 10 goes, I just want one last thing to say. And I just wanted to say it at the end of what I was saying is this is why they will never come up with an origin to their radius value. This is why the surveyors I dealt with wouldn't debate me, because the first question they were going to be asked is, where did you get your radius value? What's the origin of your radius value? They can't come up with anything. All they had was Alberoni, which referred to Pythagoras, and Eratosthenes, who also referred to Pythagoras. Why? But what's Pythagoras famous for? The right angle triangle. Because all of their measurements come from a flat plane. And not one glober anywhere was ever going to get to that point. They were never going to know where the radii came from. We can tell them where it came from. Flat Earth.
Yeah, they're just used to slipping in the presupposition of R, right? Through a mind experiment. That's what they do. That's what they have to do because the Earth is flat and their entire geometry and model is based on the Earth being flat.
Go back to the one with the sun. You're going too far forward, Nathan. It was right after the 3 circle of equal altitudes.
Okay, I'm on it. Start.
All right,
I'm
so
on the right one.
Yeah, so zenith, you got the one with the sun?
Yes.
The zenith? Okay, so zenith and elevation or altitude, you can see, this is why they don't want us to say 90. Right here. Okay, the one I'm saying, yeah, there you go. Now it's just popped up on my screen. So this is why they don't want you to do 90, because see, whenever you read in their books, you got the zenith and then you got the elevation or altitude. You can see it forms a right angle. Next image, please. Complementary angles. Two angles are complementary if their angle measures add up to 90 degrees. Complementary angles. You can see adjacent and non-adjacent here, assuming the measures of angle 3 and 4 above add up to 90 degrees. What's the language in all the nautical books? 90, 90, 90 to nausea. So there you have an adjacent with a 90. Next slide. And again, another image from their books showing the observer creating the vertex and a baseline, the adjacent. And it's elevation angles up from horizontal. As you can see, that's how you get the altitude of the star. And then the complement would be the zenith distance, or the co-altitude subtracted from the observer's 90. You could easily draw that line from that star straight down, and that would be the sub point or the GP of the star, giving you a real 90 as well. Next slide. Just like this, here's the object, so let's just keep the sun as the object. And you got the baseline, the adjacent, the horizontal. There's your 90. And what's that line of sight? Well, that's what you're looking through the sextant. That's the hypotenuse. That would be the hypotenuse. So you got to have the line of sight. You just can't have, a perpendicular. Here's your right angle triangle. Here we go. Next slide. This is what they have to work with. Everything they say with celestial navigation, this is the maximum altitude that they subtract from. So that means they're working with 90 all the time, because this is the maximum, because it's the highest in the sky above you would be any luminary. Next slide. Okay, get rid of this slide. I reposted this one as the back one just because it doesn't show well. So we'll see this at the end. All right, so from their own books, elevation angle measured up from the horizon. Then you've got zenith angle measured from the vertical. That would be the observer's vertical, as shown in previous pictures. You can see they're all straight lines. You can see 90 there. Okay, so then you do the azimuth to get the measure from the north. I see you're on this picture now, Nathan. So this is from them, showing you the flat plane they need to get this 90. The sun's now got a GP directly under it. You can see two 90s here. Next slide. So again, another one. Object and the observer is the line of sight, creating the hypotenuse. And the object, in this case, if it was that blue box with yellow in the middle, if that's the sun, you can draw a line straight down, and that would be the GP of the sun. There's no getting around this. Next slide. Types of angles. An acute angle, less than 90. Right angle, equal to 90. Obtuse angle, greater than 90 and less than 180. Straight angle, equal to 180. Reflex angle, greater than 180 and less than 360. And a complete angle, equal to 360. Now, in navigation, which one is being used? You have multiple choice here. What do you subtract from? There's only one answer here, right angle. Next. Here's a Navy site showing a Navy ship doing exactly what we just covered. You can see that he's under the star on that boat on this ship, and he moves 1 degree away. So he's at 89 degrees. If he had moved the other way a little bit, he'd be right under it, right under the star. And does that look like a 90? It sure does. Last slide. This was the one that we couldn't see just because I had to present it different. But here's a homemade sextant with a protractor using string, tape, straw, and a washer or bolt. Do you see the 90 relationship? Do you see the observer's eye, the vertex? Do you see the hypotenuse? They are not going to recover from this. I'm done.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for doing that, 10th. I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. This has been a really educational show, and a lot of people might criticise the show occasionally for being a bit too aggressive and overhyped, whereas this particular early week show has been very, very educational. So smash the share button. I know I've plugged it all the way through the live show, but please share the show, as it's been very informative. And if you're not already, join as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and then you can see the uncut after show. Obviously, after show to be recorded and played back if you're in a premiering stream. Thank you for smashing the super chat. Stay tuned if you're watching, and I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!